Good evening, everybody. We are here with Team Nocturnal Advantage, and we are recording this podcast, the Nocturnal Advantage podcast, in conjunction with Task 5 of the Wulven Apprentice. We've got a great show lined up for you here tonight. We're going to be opening with a roundtable discussion featuring the members of Team Nocturnal Advantage, and then we're going to move on to interviews with members of the development team for Shadow Era, including Gondorian.
That's a good question.
Nacho Cheese.
I have to be as completely ambiguous as possible on that, but trust me, it's amazing.
Sooth Slayer.
Team Nocturnal, they're on the ball. They work quickly.
And also the inventor and creator of the game, Mr. Kyle Poole himself.
So I'm going to let you guys take over and ask me some questions. I think you guys have a lot of questions that the audience might want to hear.
Stay tuned for all that later on. I myself am Caleb, better known to people that play Shadow Era and forum goers perhaps as Duke Demon Knight. And I'm here with Shadow Ryu and Samuel J. And would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Shadow Ryu, also known by my real name to some people.
This is Samuel J. here, and I am also known as Sam, or Samuel.
So we have 4 entire interviews for the show tonight. It's a very content-packed episode. Let's jump right in with the first interview with Mr. Soothslayer. We are here with Team Nocturnal Advantage, and we are interviewing Mr. Luis Rodriguez, aka Soothslayer, on the message boards. And to get us started, Mr. Lewis, would you please just introduce yourself to the audience and tell them a bit about your role working on Shadow Era?
Sure, sir. I'm my online handler and my in-game name for one of my many accounts. The one I got known under is Sue Slayer. You'll see me around the forums as much lately. I'm in the IRC chat under that name as well. I currently work for Wulven as one of the card designers. I've been working there for a year and a half now, a bit more. My chief responsibility is helping to organize and help orchestrate the future sets and future releases, so that I can help make sure you guys have more fun and interesting stuff to have fun with going forward.
We all like interesting stuff to have fun with. I know I do. Not like that.
Like I'm sure there's no right comment that I could say to that.
Yeah, there's.
Like,
I painted myself into a corner with that one.
It only goes downhill from there.
I'm assuming this is getting edited out.
We can just go with it.
You think?
Why not? Innuendos.
This is still PG-ish.
Ish.
Just
Maybe.
don't say anything about the corner that I painted myself into. It should be fine.
Yeah, really, because the child psychologist. Yeah, I'm gonna mention that corner every chance I get.
Well.
Do I need to call Chris Hessen on to you guys?
No, I think we've already had this conversation. We're going in circles.
I already alerted him. It's okay.
You didn't even know who he was an hour ago.
I work quickly when I see what needs to be done.
Good to know. Team Nocturnal, they're on the ball. They work quickly with their tasks.
I'll start off. You're one of the card designers, Soothslayer. Would you say you base your card designs off the art you acquire, or when you come up with a card, do you go out and find art to match, or is it a bit of both?
I would say it's about 65-35, where usually the card comes first. I mean, there have been a few cases where we've had some artwork that we've licensed in the past that, just based upon, the action artwork, how vivid it is, the scene depicted, where they've inspired a couple of cards, but more often than not, we'll get a card idea from one source or another, and we'll either commission a piece to match it, or we'll see if we have anything already licensed that kind of works with it.
Do you have an example of artwork that was just so good that you guys decided that you had to create a card to go with it?
I believe Blessed Protection was a piece where we had licensed artwork from earlier on, and we thought it was really, really great artwork. So we kind of, Cyber Down was the piece that we wanted to use. So we kind of came up with a card and kind of found a place where we could use it.
If it's not giving away too much, or if you're not allowed to say it, that's fine. But do you think you could kind of walk us through your design process?
The process of design before the PFG gets their hands on it usually it has to do with everybody just kind of throwing all their it starts out with the direction we want for the release. What is the main theme? What is the main story arc? What's kind of happening in the world? Which has a lot of Nacho Chez's input as our main lore individual. We kind of bring him in for what's the story bits of it, what's the theme, what type of mechanics and stuff do we want to use? How do we want the mechanics to fit in with the theming? And then once we kind of get the general idea of what we want the set to do, then we start going from there and try to figure what type of cards and stuff kind of fill that out, what kind of cards represent that, and we start filling up a pool full of cards that kind of represent that style. From there, we kind of whittle down to the ones that fit the best, trim some of the ones that aren't as thematic, or push some back to our next release, based upon whether or not they fit what we're trying to do for that set. Maybe they fit what we're going to be doing later. And we kind of, slowly kind of hone and refine down to a decent enough number of what it is we're looking at. And then we start, kind of tweaking for balance, or pre-tweaking before the PFG gets in, start tweaking for balance to where we think it'll fit in with the counters in the set, stuff that turns it off, stuff that kind of helps it. And from there, once we kind of have the set, mostly, you make sure everybody's kind of, thorough input, everybody's got a full set of eyes on it. And from there, we get everything queued up for the PFG so we can bring them in for balance testing to make sure everything fits the way it's supposed to work. And from there, once the PFG starts getting involved, usually they very quickly tell us, where we're completely off and have completely screwed out. Because, we know a lot, but we don't know everything. And every once in a while, there are cards that we think is really interesting and good, and apparently they're too interesting and too good. And the PFG quickly shows us they're broken. And from there, we rebalance them, and we tweak, and we buff out the ones that aren't as interesting, or are so interesting that they're only interesting and not useful at all. And we kind of tweak it until we get rid of the sweet spot. And once we start getting the cards close to this sweet spot, we start making sure we have all the artwork for the cards. Any artwork that we've had to commission, we start kind of making sure those are coming in on time.
So once you have gotten the art back from everybody that's providing it for the cards, what would the final steps of the design process be?
Once the artworks come in, the final steps is just making sure everything fits thematically, everything's the way we want it to be. The balance is one of the biggest things, make sure the balance works, making sure we're kind of comfortable where each of the different pools are and how everything fits in. Making sure all the rarities are in their proper place so that limited play works as well, so you can do things such as booster drafting or sealed play. Make sure, in Meltdown, you have access to enough allies or enough support abilities or enough removal. So there's enough stuff to kind of make the different formats kind of work. Make sure, all the different parts of the set are where you're comfortable with them being. And from there, make sure there's as few bugs as we can kind of catch. And then once everything's kind of close to being done, as kind of a last check, we make sure we release everything on the test server, just in case we miss something as a team, or the PFG missed something, or or anything else missed, which could be just the set, could be featured, could be bugs, could be background coding issues, could be anything. But just as in an effort to get fresh eyes on things, make sure everything's in a place that we're all comfortable with, nothing was missed, we throw release on the test server for a short to moderate amount of time, in order to make sure that we can kind of have it as polished as possible and as high quality as possible for when we release it on the live server. Yeah, we spend obscene amounts of time working on the quality, as quality matters for us, and you guys have shown us that quality is something you guys appreciate.
Were there any cards from Call of the Crystals that got held back and then ended up being released into Dark Prophecies?
From Call of the Crystals, not as far as we know, because Call of the Crystals was essentially designed by the point that the design team got brought in to kind of finish it off. I know that I hadn't, at that time, when it was being wrapped up, I wasn't working for Wulven yet. I was one of the testers, and I was working with them to kind of make sure everything was organized. I know that the design team had already started working on Prophecies, which at the time I didn't know much about. I just knew they were working on another set. But Call of the Crystals was essentially designed by the time, as far as I know, by the time the rest of the design team was brought in.
Do you have any personal favorites out of the cards that you've designed so far, besides stuff that hasn't been released yet?
Well, I mean, there are a few from stuff that hasn't released yet that I'm particularly proud of, I think are fun and interesting. And hopefully when those cards come out, I can share a little more about the genesis of those cards with you guys, and hopefully you'll think that they are as fun and interesting as I do. As far as the cards that have been released, I will say that I always thought Physician Orders was really fun.
Oh, I think that's kind of underrated, honestly. I like that one.
Well, I like the versatility of it, and I don't think people realize how versatile it is. But, I mean, because a lot of people want to use it as kind of a combo I win card, just bounce, bounce, bounce. But it's a little bit more of a controlling card than that. Because I remember, it was a card that, when I had originally come up with the idea for it, the idea hasn't changed a ton since I came up with it, but some of the wording has been fixed, and some of the theming of it was fixed. But it was a card that I actually came up with for the next release, as I was working on that at the time. And there was a card in Prophecies that really wasn't doing what we wanted it to do, and I was approached with asking if I had anything to fill the spot. And I kind of said, well, this is interesting, and it fits kind of what we're looking for, so why not give it a shot? And everybody kind of looked at it, they all kind of thought it was cool, thought it was interesting, thought, it kind of fit with the theming and everything. And we kind of gave it a shot. And I'm kind of proud of how it's come out. I think it's a fun, interesting card.
What was the theme of Dark Prophecies as it was articulated to you guys, and what kind of design decisions did you make to try and reflect that?
Well, for Dark Prophecies, it had to do a lot with the world being at war, just in the middle of a hard and heavy battle, and everything just erupting everywhere, and different factions and different towns and tribes and groups that are getting into the fight that weren't previously in Call of the Crystals. And as far as what was dictated to us was Kyle kind of really gave us the reins of, this is our set. This is a set. He wants to make sure that we can kind of add some more story, add some more theming to it, really kind of push it to that next level to show what we as a team can do, and show why he had faith in us as a team. And we all got together, and Nacho came up with a great story for it of the different characters and the hierarchy of Rotham and the West and these different characters, how they played into it, and how there's so much the battle being ratcheted up to that nth level, and we kind of wanted to incorporate that in the set by having more tribal cards, such as a couple more Templar cards, which Templar is a new tribe in that set. Having I believe we have one homunculus tribe in there. They're having a couple more undead guys, having more combat damage types. They're really kind of showing the battle escalating to another level.
Wow, that's so cool. That's amazing.
It seems like y'all did a good job with that.
I would say so, yeah.
Because it's kind of darker and more dramatic in a way than.
Well, it wasn't intended to. It had a lot to do with all the Shadow Worlds kind of really getting involved in the fight, and not so much uniting, because they're not the uniting type, but more of just kind of like the Horde just overrunning people, and the humans like, well, we can either be separate and get over on a kind of have everybody get involved and not get overrun. So hence you have more kind of different tribes and different ally types getting involved. And then you have different important characters in the story starting to kind of get involved. And some of the big guys in the story are becoming more known, like cards like Lois Burden kind of start to show his importance as a character, and Rotham's Visage showing his importance as a character.
I'm so impressed, like, how much you guys work to tie lore into it, as well as working to balance it and find new mechanics and ways to keep the game interesting. I think that's one of the reasons you guys have such a dedicated fan base, despite being such a lesser-known game right now, because you're still in the early stages of development. In terms of, like, overall production, I've heard from a lot of sources that most games don't consider a game even started until it's at least created 2 sets to go off of. You guys are already printing. You're getting ready to print your second set, and you're working on your third, and we'll be starting the focus group soon. So, I mean, it's amazing that you're able to accomplish so much and still put so much toward those important focuses.
Absolutely. I mean, quality is our highest priority, and we want to make sure that everybody, all our fans know that we are not comfortable with releasing subpar or quality cards and material and products to them, because quality is important. And from my personal experience at some of the conventions and stuff that I've been to the last year and change, is that a lot of fans of Shadowware and a lot of fans of other games really kind of notice we take a lot of time with our quality. So that's something we're really proud of, and we're really proud of the work we put in so far. But we're not resting on that. We've spent more time than people realize on the next release, and it's come a long way from where it started, and we are insanely proud of it. We really are. It knocked our socks off while we were working on it, and we're really kind of looking forward to it, hopefully doing the same for you guys.
I feel like that's almost a textbook example of how to elegantly receive a compliment. It's like, yes, it was amazing, we are pretty amazing, but it's going to be more amazing in the future.
Well, I mean, it's either that or I'd be, that one guy who's like, yes, thank you, we did such a great job, I'm proud of the job I've done. And just leave it at that. It's like, well, if you're proud of the job you did, do you plan on doing any more? It's like, right. Well, and are you gonna drop your quality? It's like, no, nothing's dropping. We're ratcheting everything up. We're very much gaining steam and amping up everything we can, and processes are getting a little smoother. Everything's getting a little bit more streamlined. Any kinks we had are kind of working out, and everything is kind of getting much more refined and honed and tuned as things go along.
So can I ask, what are some ambitions that you have for Shadow Era in the future? Like, how would you like to see the game expand, or what other areas do you think it could reach into that it might not be accessing yet?
Well, I mean, one of the things I personally am looking forward to Shadow Era expanding into is I'd like to see more physical play really expand, and more physical tournaments expand, because the few. I mean, I'm not sure if any of you guys know, but my personal history as a card game player is I started out playing physical card games, so I wasn't playing digitally. Digitally is something I came later on as I had less and less time to do physical games. And so I'm looking forward to being able to approach more physical tournaments, more booster drafting, more kind of fun and interesting meltdown games and styles and stuff in the physical realm, because I like having the person across me where you can kind of share interesting stories and banter, and just kind of that kind of experience I think is fun. And I think it's a little bit lost in a game where you're playing where you're a million miles away from somebody and you're typing, you're chatting in. So I'm looking forward to expanding into that front and expanding into a couple of other features and some other different mechanics and stuff we're exploring digitally that I don't think we spoiled all of them yet. Yeah, I think those are, a couple of other stuff in that front that I'm looking at as well, but the main thing is I want to see more, like, physical tournaments and stuff. As far as favorite Dark Prophecies card, if I had a favorite card overall, I do really like Divine Connection. It's kind of really an interesting, completely alternate strategy card that you have to build around. And I have had a few decks I built around it that I thought were really interesting and fun. I had one that I built a little while ago, a deck that I built around it, where it was the most complicated deck I've ever used in pretty much almost any card game I've ever played. But I thought it was just like the most fun and cool deck I've ever built, with Divine Connections and Treasured Heirlooms and a couple of Sacred Firewalkers, and it had an ungodly amount of card draw, and it's just kind of looping, and I think I had 2 or 3 resurrections, so that I never ran out of allies. It was the goofiest deck imaginable, but once it kind of got its engine going, it was kind of... It was a fun deck to play with.
I haven't experimented with Divine Connection as much as maybe I need to. I've tried once or twice, and I could never really get it off the ground, besides being like, oh, well, I can make my Treasured Heirlooms like the draw engine of my deck now.
Well, I mean, I like in that deck, I like the fact that I could use Divine Connection to... Making my attachments cheaper wasn't what I was looking for. I mean, it was just a nice little bonus. But I like the fact that I could continuously just loop every one of my attachments to the point where any of my guys is a threat you have to deal with. Well, tournament players enjoy winning first and foremost.
Very true.
There's no bones about that. They enjoy winning first and foremost.
The only thing almost as important as winning is not letting your opponent win.
Well, I don't think we're quite at the point of, like, hating on the opponent by denying them the win. But, some players find that they enjoy more of playing only the power cards because they feel they're efficient and they get them to their wins as quick and efficiently as possible, and you can't begrudge them that. And some players, are more comfortable with you win some, you lose some, but they want to enjoy the road along the way.
Does the third set have a name?
Yes, we do have a name. I guess if there's anything else I would say is that, yes, we've been working on another set. Yes, we've been working on it for a while. Despite what people think, we're not starting to work on it now. We've been working on it for a long while. So it's something that, we think is in a good place, but, PFG is coming in to make sure that they can show us exactly how wrong we are and how many things we missed.
Looking forward to it.
Now we're going to continue the podcast with our round table discussion from Team Nocturnal Advantage, and then continue with the rest of the interviews. We thought we would open by talking about our experience with Wulven Apprentice contests so far, and we'll start with what made us want to apply for the contest. So I was a long-time appreciator and lover of collectible card games. I started playing a different one than this, obviously, back when I was 12 years old, and it's been something that I've stuck with here and there, but when I discovered Shadow Era, I just really fell in love with this game because it seemed so well balanced to me, and really had a refreshing take on some of the game dynamics. And being a game designer was always sort of like an idle dream of mine back when I was a teenager, so I just thought I would give this a shot, and it's really been a lot of fun and a good way, I think, to try and apply my sort of extra creative energy. My background these days is I went to school for English and theater, graduated a few years ago, and I've just been working some jobs here and there since. I've been an intern on like a couple movies and TV productions, and I'm starting a video editing job here now, and I live in Mississippi. I don't know what else to say. Hi, everybody, I'm Caleb.
Hi, Shadow Ryu here. My interest in trading card games really began with Yu-Gi-Oh! A long time ago when I was about 11, 12. I've played it most of my life. Still play it now when I get free time, which I don't have much that often. But my biggest concern with Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the very high lack of balance. But my love of games in general caused me to go to the University of Central Florida for game design, of which I graduated last year with a bachelor's degree in game design. When I found Shadow Era over a year ago, I was in love with the balancing system and the cards and the art and the fact that they actually cared to have a quality product and make sure nothing was too overpowered. And since I really wanted a job in the industry after getting my bachelor's and before I started my graduate school, I applied the first time I saw them put up a job offer. I unfortunately didn't give it, but when I saw them put up for the Wulven Apprentice, I saw another opportunity to possibly get a job, get into the industry, and work on a game I love. And here I am now.
Samuel J. here. What made me want to apply? It's been about 2 years since I started playing. I play the game religiously. The two things I probably do most throughout my day are play Shadow Era and troll the forums of Shadow Era. So it pretty much takes up my day. But when I saw that they were looking for somebody to work for them, I can't really have a job with too much physical labor, so I figured it would be a good idea for me to try out, see if I had what it takes to get a job there, and that's why I applied.
So, moving along, what has everybody's favorite challenge in the Wulven Apprentice contest been so far?
That's easy. The card design, 1,000 times over.
I liked the card design, but I liked the marketing challenge too, just because I'm a marketing major in college.
I would also say my favorite in terms of fun was the card design contest. Marketing, I feel like I learned a lot that week, but it wasn't always the easiest.
Running the events wasn't actually too bad either.
The events was fun.
Okay, so what has been the most difficult moment of the contest so far for everyone?
What was task 1 again?
Make something to teach the game to people who just started.
I'd have to say task 1 was probably my most difficult moment.
I actually think I'd probably agree with you. That one is the only one I actually lost in so far. And it was hard because we just started the competition, so we weren't entirely sure of the expectations, and there was a little bit of a miscommunication between a few of the people, and it made it a very difficult. That one was, I would have to agree, I think that one was the most difficult of the ones we've done so far.
I would have to say my most difficult moment of the contest so far is just having to name up another teammate in the layer when they ask who you think should be kicked off the team. When I have been on the losing side, it's never really fun when you've done so much work with these people and sort of developed a relationship with them to have to cull out one of them.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I don't think either one of us have had to do that, or else that would easily be the most difficult part.
Yeah.
Well, la-dee-da. So, who is everyone's favorite hero to use and why?
I'm split between Zaladar and Majaya. When I first started playing the game, you know how pretty much everybody will start off and they'll get their starter deck and they'll start playing against the NPCs, which I believe it's only Terradune at the beginning. After fighting Terradune and whoever came up after him, I was like, well, this is an easy game. I don't know, because my friend had showed it to me, and I'm like, well, they're so easy. And then I got to Majaya, and all of a sudden, Majaya was just kicking my face into the ground and making me thank her for it. Like, her ability, plus, like, she was dropping plasma behemoths off every single turn, it seemed like. I couldn't handle anything. And I really enjoy a lot of the cards that come with the Mage and Shadow. So her being a Shadow Mage really helps, and her ability is so good. 3 damage and a card draw, card advantage. I'll look at any card, and usually will love it if it gives me any kind of card advantage like that. And as for Zaladar, he has access to some of the best tools in the game. Mind Control is probably my favorite card in the entire game. The Elementals have some really interesting cards. And his ability also. He's pretty much a free lightning strike without having to be a mage or play a card in your hand. So I'd have to say it's split pretty evenly between those two overall.
If I had to pick favorite hero, I would probably go with either Serena or maybe Beduru, because I enjoy the oddball strategies in games that people tend not to necessarily be gravitated to the most. I play a lot of elementals. I probably use Zaladar more often than anybody else, but when I can get some wins with Serena, I think she's really satisfying to use just because the disruption is something that no other hero in this game can really do. And I think the discard is kind of a fun effect for you, at least. Maybe not as much for the opponent. And then Beduru, I used to completely ignore him, and I would sort of laugh to myself if I saw anybody use him on the quick match ladder. But then suddenly when Dark Prophecies came out, he actually became relevant, and I just think he's a lot of fun to use. He doesn't necessarily have the widest range of strategies that you can use with him yet, and I'd like to see that expand more. But he has a very fun style of play. You can just really kind of mid-range and control the board and drop nasty threats.
Well, my favorite hero is the one and only, the best hero in the game. That would be Jericho. And he might not be played as much as most of the other heroes, but I think that'll change as time goes on, as they get more attachments in the game. I mean, he's still viable right now. It's just you really have to know how to play him and what to use his ability on and what cards to play. And he's really good if you can tech for the matchup.
I would say he's not bad, but the thing about him to me, at least currently, is so few decks actually rely on attachments to win that I find most of the time you can just resource around him and, sort of throw away most of your attachments. I should probably re-explore him a bit.
Everybody should re-explore him.
People just always say, they're like, oh, well, you use his shadow energy on other things, you use it on your Wizard staff and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, Zana can do that too, or she can heal, I don't know.
Yeah, I tend to use his ability most games, though, unless it's somebody who just doesn't play anything at all that has any. I mean, even sometimes I'll use it on my own treasured heirloom just to draw 2 cards.
Fair enough.
Extra cards are extra cards, I'll give you that.
That's true. It doesn't matter how you get them, they're still extra cards.
Moving along, what is y'all's least favorite playstyle, or if you're facing a random opponent, what is the one hero or strategy that you just hope that they're not using?
Millstalker.
That's probably
the default answer for this question.
Millstalker is one of the most hated out there.
They're so annoying. You get a good lead and usually get them down to under 10, and then all of a sudden you can't touch them.
And they put Lone Wolf up and end up back at 26,
Yeah.
28.
It's so frustrating. It's just not even. It's not even funny. You just want to throw your computer at the nearest passerby.
They did get a lot easier to deal with some of the new stuff from Dark Prophecies, but yeah, Millstalker is definitely still as annoying.
I
Perhaps as it
myself
ever
don't like
was.
the rush style. The super...
Suicide,
super rush.
Aladwin.
Yes, Aladwin Rush specifically.
Those are really annoying too. I could easily agree with that.
They seem to always get their turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 against me.
Well, I assume that's how they built the deck, so you can't really
while somehow drawing cards without me noticing.
Well, that's just like every Millstalker I've ever played somehow got Bazaar on their second turn.
The thing to me is, Eladwin Rush, when I play against it, I'm like, oh my god, this, it's a chump deck, like, anybody could do this, and then I try and build my own version of it, and it seems like there's like 4 or 5 cards that aren't quite right in there. I'm like, I'm not really getting to the end of the game like other people are somehow. Maybe I just have bad luck, or it might just be a style that
if you can kill her draw, then she's gone, unless she top decks like perfectly.
So, moving on to the next topic, let's talk about thoughts about the current metagame. Anybody want to open this up, or should I just sort of toss some random questions out there?
Mostly lately, what I've been seeing is Haste Amber and Haste Eladwin, and that's around like the 250 range. And it seemed lately to be more Amber than Eladwin.
Amber's all over the place.
She is very famous right now.
It seems like Haste Boris has kind of died down a little bit.
Yeah, he was big. I don't know, like a couple weeks ago, but I haven't really run into him in a while. Another one that I've actually seen a bit lately is the Fury on Terror and Crypt mill decks.
Just using that as a board lock.
Yeah. Trying to stall out for a while.
I think I've seen a couple different decks use that, like various heroes.
I've seen Pterodon and Logan, mostly.
I think I saw a Millstalker doing that too, or, close to Millstalker.
A lot of Millstalkers will run that.
It seems like Zaladar is still, about as prevalent as he ever was too, but there doesn't seem to be one Zaladar deck that people are using. I think there's a lot of variance there.
Yeah.
Actually, I haven't seen a whole lot of Magia lately, like I used to.
I'm still rocking Magia sometimes.
Yeah, I used to see her like 1 in every 3 games.
I think she's my primary runner right now. Is I usually will use Magia as my go-to hero.
Yeah, I've been actually running Amber like everybody else in the game. Mine's a little bit different though, because I like to play with Yari and a couple other cards, like to go behind him.
Yeah.
I think
She just has so much control that it's ridiculous.
People still aren't using Yari Spearman enough, I think.
Exactly. I think he's amazing.
I think a lot of people try and just stick him down, like as soon as they draw him, as if he were, like a Amber or Aldon or something like that. But if you can really just time him to go with like a bomb game-winning ally, then he can be the difference between winning and having your opponent deal with your threat.
Yeah, I had a game the other day where I got all 4 Yaris out and had a Alden on the board, so they were all hitting for 5.
Oh no.
Damn.
That's nice. See, I wanted to make a contest to see if anybody could get 4 sparks on the board, like above a certain rating in a game against a random opponent. Is there anything that seems to be sort of underperforming to you guys? Are there any heroes that you use that you're surprised more people don't? Or are there any heroes that you just can't get to work? I know
Logan. I mean,
yeah.
I can get him to work. Just I run into Eladwin and she just dominates him.
I've gotten 1 or 2 Logan decks that I think maybe seemed sort of functional put together, but I would just play it for a few matches and just be like, what's the point? Like there's better stuff out there.
I think Victor is just suffering really hard too lately.
Yeah, I think both of the rogues in general don't see quite as much play right now as I think they used to back with Call of the Crystals.
Oh,
I still see a lot of lands.
I don't see Serena as much, and I actually have a bit of a problem running. I'm just not that good with Serena yet. I still need to learn her, but I'll run a Lance a lot whenever he was like the first human I really enjoyed.
I like them a lot, personally. I mean, I think I have, slightly above average win ratios with Lance especially. Serena is a little more challenging. I have, like, a list with her that I feel pretty good about, but it's hard to play. It really punishes poor decision-making. But I don't know. I'm trying to think. I really haven't seen much Gwyneth either.
Yeah, she's tricky. Usually when I do see her, it's solo Gwen, and that just is so frustrating.
Solo Gwen is really frustrating, but it just, if the opponent has the cards that they need to in their deck, like, there's not that much she can do to actually win. I think it's one of those decks that, like, can take advantage of a metagame that's not really prepared for it, but when you get down to it, I don't know if it could ever really be a dominant deck in its current form.
She dominates, though, if you don't have weapon destruction.
Yeah,
she'll
no.
take you right out. Because she always seems to hide 4 times right in a row at the end of the game and just completely dismisses the fact that you have allies on the board.
Well, also, just one Soul Seeker plus, her ability a few times in a row messes up a good
Just
portion of decks.
Infinite Soul Seeker.
It's just annoying sometimes.
Yeah, it can, honestly, back to the annoying decks thing. Sometimes when I'm playing against Solo Gwen, I'm like, oh, really? Like, this is what you choose to do with your time?
I don't like playing most solo heroes. They're just...
Well, although it's annoying, but I kind of like solo Gwen just because, I don't know, I think combining it with, certain cards, especially when you get to steal cards from them, if you play that route, that's fun.
fun for you. I've been on the opposing side and about broken my keyboard a few times.
Yeah, being on the opposing side of a Night Prowler or a Dimension Ripper can definitely be really annoying. One of the worst feelings in the game to me is just not being able to, or if you have that Leyline Nexus and then they steal it from you, you're just like, ah.
I've had that happen many a time.
I think every time a Dimension Ripper has been used, I have lost my enrage.
Every time I use Dimension Ripper, on the other hand, though, I get like a Dirk or something like that from them.
Exactly. It never seems to go my way.
Hi, we're here with Team Nocturnal Advantage with Gondorian, and we're here to have a good time.
So, Gondorian, to start with, could you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Hello, I'm Gondorian. You might have heard me on such podcasts as the Wulven Podcast, possibly State of the Era Podcast, and match commentaries on occasion. And I work on the design team of Shadow Era. Very happy to be here today, my own home that I've just moved into.
Welcome here, and welcome to your new home.
It says thank you. Seriously, it does. Quite regularly, it's freaking me out, actually. I close the door, it says thank you.
It's like the Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Smart house.
Good movie.
So,
what can you attribute to your lack of recent trolling?
My house told me not to. I'm kind of scared of it, to be honest. It has the power to drop spiders on me when I'm asleep, so I tend to do what it says. But also, I have got a lot of unpacking to do, and then there's behind the scenes stuff on the next expansion that most people won't have seen. And also, I think there's a lot of other people now kind of doing forum-y stuff and just stepping back, letting the community, run itself. You don't really need me anymore.
So
I'm going to come back and shake things up soon.
is there going to be a card called Possessed English Monster House coming out in the new set? Like a legendary ally, maybe?
If the house says that that's okay, then yes. But I'll have to run it past the house.
Sounds like maybe you should have done a little bit more research before you moved into this place.
Yeah.
Well,
really.
to be honest, the house told me to just take it, so...
Right when you showed up, it said, just find me.
Take me. Yeah, so...
It sounds like your life has really become simplified recently with the move, though. All your thinking is done for you.
I don't think there's any thinking involved. I think the house is possessed. And there's just no thinking. It's all... Yes, I don't want to think about it, actually. I'm sat in a dark room at the moment because I think the house can't see me then. I hope.
Would you say that there's an echo in the house?
Maybe.
Let's hope
In the
not.
bathroom. It's a shame no one will get that in joke.
I know, it's far inside.
Well, I think I recorded the echo bit earlier, actually. I just don't really think there's any way for us to edit it together in which it would make sense to anybody
That's
but
your mission.
ourselves.
We need to make the
That
echo
that will
joke
be
work.
success for this project, if I can make the echo joke land.
I'll earn points.
Like
You
our
just
whole
leave the echo
podcast.
reference in and you can explain it afterwards.
Whole podcast relies on people getting that echo joke.
It's on that. It's like the load-bearing wall of the podcast, and if that doesn't pay off, the whole podcast will collapse.
We should just keep it an inside joke and keep making jokes about it until the end.
So, Gondorian, is there any news on the upcoming 2013 World Championship?
Right, well, we are currently in discussion in the design team and with Kyle on setting a date for it. So we can announce it and people can get ready to either watch it or plan to be there and win one of the remaining places that are available. So once we've set that date, then we'll have to run the other events to give away the invites. So that really will kick things into gear once the date is set. You know what we're like with dates. It's not great, but this is one we'll have to stick to, right? So we'll pick this, and then everything else will fall into place around it.
About how many spots are still open for the tournament?
I think there's 8. Might even be more than 8. We were going to start another event recently, the Slugfest, but we were waiting for a critical bug fix to go in, which has not gone in yet. I believe was stalled on Apple. That's all I can say. That's all I know, but it's a pain. What can you do?
I believe that that's all that you say, but I don't believe that that's all that you know.
Okay, I know more, but the house told me not to say.
We don't want to
Try not to
endanger
think
him,
about it.
guys.
Yes.
He's clearly shown that he's afraid of the
We
house.
used to have 10 toes, I now have 8 toes. And the house left me a note saying that it took 2 of my toes.
Although, if we revealed your identity and then, secret agents were sent to your location, they might be able to save you from the house. It's sort of a toss-up.
There's that.
True. They might. Yeah, we'll talk about that after.
They may
The
just
house might
fuel
be
its
listening.
bloodlust, though.
The house will definitely be listening now, so we've got to plan this out, when I'm outside the house.
Gondorian, since you had a lot of input with the Wulven Apprentice as it goes on, what were some of the qualities you want the ideal candidate when the contest was created?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was looking for somebody to replace me, essentially. I feel quite stressed now and again, and the house has only made that worse. But I would love to be able to just let someone else do everything I do and still get paid. So the plan is to find someone similar to me, but maybe a bit more organised, a bit less prone to starting things without finishing them. But definitely personality is important, and loving the game, and being creative, coming up with ideas to shake things up. I'd say they're the main things.
Will your replacement have to have a British accent?
No, but it will help.
So we should start developing those as quickly as we possibly can.
You should have started on it already, really. Did you not get the memo?
I believe Praybird's out on the British accent because I don't know if Australians can pull off other accents.
That's just good news for us, then.
Oh, that's a bit of trash talk in there.
Well,
On the other team.
It's not
Nice one.
trash talking.
They can't do accents.
Oh, boy.
You done heard it here, folks.
Gondorian, do you have a personal favorite among the cards that you have been personally responsible for designing?
Ooh, that's a good question. Generally all the cards have been done by all of us, although there are some that I've been mostly responsible for. Ideas that have come from me, and I've named them and described the art, the effect. I'd say it'd be one of the Dark Prophecies elemental cards. It's between probably Synchronicity and Super Focus, because we're talking about the lore of elementals and trying to understand what they're all about, and I thought those two cards really fit with their theme. So Synchronicity, the idea is that they can do something and make something happen to the other side at the same time. Normally Synchronicity, is it coincidence or is it something magical? Well, in this case they can choose to make something happen if they do something. And Super Focus, that's representing them channeling their energy into something, focusing all their attention onto the ally and buffing it. So those two, I really like the flavour of them, and I don't think they changed at all between the idea being pitched and the final version. So yeah, I like those. I mean, I've done others, but yeah, those two, they're good examples. They're not played that much, while Super Focus is, but Synchronicity I like, is kind of cute. I like it when that one works. Like you bounce a Fury and Terror back to the top of your deck and bounce one of their 5-cost thingies and then play Fury and Terror again next turn.
I feel
That's
like
pretty cute.
I think Synchronicity is going to be a card that gets better too as more allies with abilities that trigger when they come into play get created.
Yeah, definitely.
I've heard talk about people trying to combo Transference with Synchronicity.
Yeah, that's another one. I mean, it takes a lot of setup. It's the kind of thing that people will enjoy trying to deck build around it, and they'll play it, and sometimes it'll come off. And that's the kind of player that I am, really, trying to be inventive and have cute things happen more than just winning with, the best deck. I'm not sure I've ever net decked a deck. Always try and make an original one. Which usually means it's not very good because, if all the ones that are already out there are doing well, I'll deliberately not use one of those ones. I'll try and make my own.
I try to do the same thing most of the time. I like the cute tricks in the game.
And there'll be more cute tricks in future. As long as I stay on the team. More chances, more cute cards come in.
which we're all, of course, looking forward to.
Yeah.
What can you say about the role of humor in creating Shadow Era cards? Like, I've noticed that some of them, the artwork is sort of light and playful, and I think that's kind of a cool aspect of the game, but is this something that you guys sort of consciously try and measure out in doses, or what's the overall philosophy?
Like thoughtful investment, perhaps?
Yeah, or selfishness, or what are some other ones with sort of kind of cartoony artwork?
Well, selfishness
or lone wolf.
predates me being on the team. The card, not obviously the trait. I brought that very much to the team, but it was here. The card was here before we joined the team. Thoughtful investment. There's a good story behind that, actually. I'm not sure whether that was always the name. I can't remember that part, but we were trying to come up with the artwork for it, and I thought it would be kind of funny if we had this Jack and the Beanstalk style picture. I suggested it, and one of the design team members, who's no longer on the team, objected strongly to it, but the rest of the guys were in favour of something humorous. So yeah, we kept that, and then the public reaction to it has been mixed as well. Some people said, "Oh, you can't have that on there," and others said, "Hey, it's great, I like it." So that's fine though. That's okay.
Gondorian, it has been a pleasure having you here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything that you would like to add before we jump to our next segment?
No, it's been great. Yeah, it's been a pleasure for me too. You guys have definitely got the nocturnal advantage because it's 1 a.m. here. Hopefully I haven't been too overtired and acting like a loon. The house will tell me off later if I have to. So, yeah. Cheers, guys. Good luck with the rest of the podcast.
This is Nocturnal Advantage, and we're here with Kevin, aka Nacho Cheese. Welcome.
Howdy, folks.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
So we'll start out with the question that everybody wants to know is, how's the map of Baylor coming along?
Absolutely fantastically. A lot of work has been going on to it, and I think it's just going to blow everyone away once we show the final product. Unfortunately, it's one of those situations that I don't like giving final dates, because as soon as I do that, some artist is going to give me an excuse about their baby was just born or they had a flu. So still have to stick with the soon with a little TM at the end of it for when you guys get to finally see it. I can, however, promise, though, it is going to be absolutely worth the wait.
We're
That's
excited.
awesome. I think everybody's kind of looking forward to that. Well,
I'm really looking forward to it because the lore gets to mention all these cool places, but some people are like, okay, where is that?
Yeah, that'll be exciting.
Is that going to be sort of in conjunction with the revamped single-player mode?
It will probably come out slightly ahead of the single-player mode to help build hype for it, but the new map is definitely a major part of that new single-player experience.
Nice. So, on to the next question. Mr. Kevin, Mr. Nacho Cheese, when you're coming up with ideas for flavor text and lore to match cards, do you usually base it on the artwork, or do you base it more on the design for the card, like the concept, or a little bit of both? Can you take us through your process with that?
The thing is about it is, one thing you have to remember is it's not just me coming up with it. I do work in a team, and while lore is my primary purview, everyone in the team pitches in. So there's not just one process that it goes through. There have been instances where a story that I've written and uploaded to our design team internal documents, someone read that and they liked the idea, and that created a card. Like Arthile's Crypt was actually created completely from a lore perspective. One of the design team members was trying to bring a little more lore to the game, and that's where that entire card came from. Other times, I come to a card that's already been created and I need to weave it into the lore, like Belladonna. She was a human on the shadow side, distinctly human card, fighting for the shadows. So the lore had to kind of get wrapped around her art. So there's definitely a good give and take on all of it. To me personally, a card can't be good unless the balance, the ability, the art, the lore, they're all coming together at the same time to make the card.
Yeah, I should emphasize for the listeners that we have been phrasing some of these questions as if some of the work were done a little bit more unilaterally, and we should emphasize that everything is very much a collaborative process as far as the design team goes.
We on the design team definitely have our purviews and our strong suits that we're in charge of. We're kind of the fall guy for them, but it's absolutely a team effort, and the lore is no different. Everyone's had their input on the story, and everyone's had a lot of work that they've put in on it. So while I do get most of the credit for writing it all, and I do kind of write the actual stories for people to read, the actual background noise has absolutely taken a team effort to put together. That's why it is such a large, vibrant world we've been building.
I've got one I want to ask. I was reading through the document and I saw one that really jumped out at me. Are there some features which you deliberately do not include in the Shadow Era game world? One primary example is so far the game lacks dragons entirely, which is a little different from most trading card games or fantasy genres in general, which is kind of nice and refreshing because it's not the traditional fantasy trope. Is this a deliberate decision? Or have you guys just not used it yet? And could you enlighten us as to some of the rules of the mythos for Shadow Era?
I wrote that question.
I wouldn't say that we go through and we hack anything out. What I would say is we refuse to put anything in that doesn't match our ridiculous standards for quality, which has shown through on things like the art and the pacing of the story and everything. We refuse to put things in that we don't think are there. And even the things that we do put in, they have to match our idea of the lore. So you do see some of the tropes, like elves. Elves are in the game, but they're not your typical tree-hugging, forest, arrow-shooting, live-forever people. They actually fight for the shadow. They are magic users, but they have a completely different standard, because while we do think that the fantasy tropes have a place, they have to be made our own, or they're just not worth putting into the game.
I was wondering, what do you have a favorite flavor text?
Favorite flavor text? I would probably say Feathered Longbow is my favorite of the flavor texts.
Feathered Longbow.
And not just because of the flavor text itself. Some of the flavor, especially that's appearing in Dark Prophecies, are actual quotes from a larger story that's being crafted. And the story that's represented in that moment, the idea that was being presented in that moment, I really love where it was coming from and what it's about. Unfortunately, I have to be as completely ambiguous as possible on that, but trust me, it's amazing.
For those who don't know, it's true happiness is wanting what you have. That is the text on it. Yeah, I mean, I could see, it's cool that even the flavor text, goes into the lore.
That's amazing.
I had one more question for you, Kevin. This is just kind of a random one, but I remember, I think, reading a little mini write-up about Paladin of Unaxio, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But I think that you said that you had sort of a soft spot for that lore in particular, the backstory that you gave to those characters. And I thought that was kind of interesting because I often hear writers say that the villain, or, the antagonist is the most fun character to create, since you have such a wide range of creative license and you can kind of make them any way that you want. But I thought that was cool, and I liked the backstory, and I was just wondering what about that card kind of resonates with you, if anything, and do you approach creating an antagonist differently opposed to a hero, and what's the most fun for you, if that's 5 questions in one? But
Well, it's really going to depend on the situation. The reason most writers, and I'm going to include myself on that, have so much fun with the villains is that you kind of have a license to explore more of who they are and what makes them tick. With heroes, and I have to iterate, I'm being very generalized here, there are some amazing writers who break this rule out of hand, but it's kind of a fantasy trope. The heroes tend to be a little more transparent in what they're doing. The heroes are trying to stop the bad guy, and they're trying to save the world. They're supposed to be over-glorified and beyond what we see ourselves as human. With Shadow Era, that's not necessarily the case. Everyone likes to think that the humans are the good guys and the shadows are the bad guys, but it's way, way more nuanced than that. Humanity has had to set aside some long-standing biases and major grudges to form the alliance that they're bringing to bear against the Shadow. As the sets go, you're going to see that more and more play a factor in how they're working together and how they're fighting against the Shadow. So the humans in this case were as much fun to write as the Shadow because they are nuanced, because both sides have more to them than the typical, this is the good guys, these are the bad guys, pick your side and let's go with it. As for the Paladin itself, it wasn't just him, but the actual Templar order that he represents that I have such an affection for. And a lot of that comes because they were founded to bring peace between two warring religions, and at that same time were able to use that power to create an army so strong, even the Men of Shadows knows who they are. They have so much history, and I feel like they, in particular, really show the depth of how big Balor is becoming as the lore is getting out there.
Nice.
Very nice.
Very, very nice.
Very nice.
Nicissimo.
Nicey nice.
Was that an echo I heard?
All right. Kevin, Mr. Nacho Cheese, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I think we really learned a lot. Anybody else have anything to say?
Thanks for letting us interview you, man. Learned a lot about lore.
We really, really appreciate this opportunity in general. This is so kick-ass.
It really has
Gentlemen,
been
it was a
blast.
pleasure, and good luck with the podcast.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And now, the moment everybody has been waiting for. A rare interview with the first man to ever be a Shadow Era designer, the creator of the game himself, Mr. Kyle Poole.
Hey everybody, this is Kyle, the creator of Shadow Era, and we're here for a special Wulven Apprentice podcast with Nocturnal Advantage. And today, Caleb, Sam, and Sean are going to be interviewing me. Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, how are you doing, Kyle?
I'm doing great, thanks.
I'm doing all right myself. Glad to be here with you.
Well, I did the intro, but you guys will have to ask me the questions because, I think a lot of people pretty rarely hear me actually on the official podcast because, as you may know, I'm in Vietnam, so the time zones are a little bit opposite. So I'm going to let you guys take over and ask me some questions. I think you guys have a lot of questions that the audience might want to hear.
Anybody
All
want
right,
to...
so what was your inspiration to create Shadow Era, and how did you come up with your idea?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most frequently asked questions that I get. At the time when I started to create Shadow Era, at the time there was very few games on iPhone that featured full-scale trading card games. There were some simple card battle games, but no one actually tried to do a full-scale game that brought the feeling of playing an actual physical card game. So with Shadow Era, I wanted to, first of all, create the full experience of building a deck, playing against opponents in real-time multiplayer, and really bringing the feel of playing a physical game to the digital experience. I've been a collector of Magic the Gathering for a long time. Not a player, but a collector. So one of my first priorities was to have really good artwork. So that's pretty much where Shadow Era began, was creating cards with great artwork, interesting effects, and making the gameplay simpler for new users to get into that maybe haven't played the TCG before. And I think it really paid off with the digital adaptation of the first ever full-scale trading card game on mobile. And it worked out really good. It's been still going strong. There's been a lot more competition these days, but we're still going, and we're bringing more and more features to Shadow Era, and it's going really well.
Yeah, that's one of the things I liked. Is this is the first trading card game I ever played. It was really easy to pick up and start learning.
Yeah, I get that comment a lot. In fact, at Gen Con, my sister, who never played a physical card game before, she was able to pick up Shadowware very quickly, and she actually beat me in her first game.
She looked a lot like Eladrin, so that probably
Yes,
gave her the advantage.
Is that who she played?
No, she was dressed as Eladrin.
Yeah, she was dressed as Eldrin, but her hero, I think, was Banewill. We played a meltdown game for our first game.
I saw the costumes on Facebook. I just didn't know if she was slinging that deck as well.
Yeah, the game's fantastic. I stumbled upon it with a friend of mine. Actually, ironically, while we were trying to create our own card game. And it kind of distracted us from doing our own, but it's been a good distraction. It's a very, very creative game.
I know we all really enjoy it a lot. Probably wouldn't be here otherwise.
Yeah.
How much impact has Shadowware made on your life, and how much does it impact your day-to-day life?
Well, it's an interesting story. Again, back to how Shadowware came to be. I was actually staying in Vietnam, off work, just taking it easy, and I sort of created it in my spare time. Over the course of, I think, first 6 months, I was the designer and the lead programmer. And since then, it really took off. I formed a whole company around it. So, of course, the game has really changed my life drastically, and now it's, my full-time job. So, yeah, for sure, it's definitely changed my life. And, yeah, it's my main task these days is always Shadowware.
Which I'm sure everybody is happy to hear about, that's your main task.
Right.
So, Kyle, I have heard that the first experience you had porting over or developing a game for iPhone was taking the previously existing property Battle for Westnoth and porting that over. And I was just wondering what that was like and if you maybe learned any lessons that you applied when you created Shadow Era.
Yeah, I've actually been a mobile developer for a very long time. For about 10 years, I've been developing mobile games. And porting Battle for Westnoth to iPhone was actually a big challenge. It's an open source game for PC, so doing the mobile port at the time was very difficult. It took me about 6 months, I believe, full-time work on just porting to make it run on the iPhone with the memory and performance requirements that were needed. Of course, that was at the time. Now you can just compile the PC version and it'll work fine on the iPhone because iPhones are so powerful. But I learned a lot about mobile optimization and also really how to listen to the community and get their feedback about what features they'd like to see, what's working and what's not working, what they like, what's fun. And I've really transferred that over to Shadowware. I always spend a lot of time listening to feedback from players and hearing their concerns and their desires and what they want to see in the game. And I think it's really paid off to have a good connection with the community when you're developing a game.
I know that's a fantastic feeling being a player, is that Wulven Games actually listens to feedback and suggestions and seems to really have a keen eye on what the players want rather than, necessarily the way to make the biggest buck or not
Right.
that I think it seems to be doing very well, and I would like to see it do much better, but I think y'all's sense of community involvement and player support is really fantastic so far.
It's amazing.
I love the community. I'm not sure if I spend more time playing the game or just trolling the forums.
Right.
It's such a nice community, though. You look at the communities for any other trading card game, and they're always at each other's throats, and they're just so rude and nasty to everybody.
Yeah, that's true. I hear that a lot, actually, yeah.
I know I've definitely gotten flamed on some Magic the Gathering forums that I was new to or whatever.
Yu-Gi-Oh's the same exact way. They're all super, super aggressive.
I've only played Shadow Era, so
Lucky you.
Yeah, lucky.
I've only been around nice people.
Go to a
Way to be.
Yu-Gi-Oh tournament sometime and just watch. It'll kill your faith in humanity. Kyle, what ways do you think Shadow Era should expand in the future, and what areas do you think are most crucial to move it to the proverbial next level of success?
Well, we've been working on a lot of features that we have in the pipeline that are almost ready to be pushed out now. Number one is automated tournaments that have been coming soon for quite a while, but we're ready to push that out live. The automated tournaments, of course, will mean more structured gameplay for players that are more competitive, that allow them to sign up for tournaments and win shadow crystals as prizes and stuff like that, and also have a separate tournament rating. I know a lot of players have been looking forward to more organized play in the digital version, so we're happy to provide that soon.
That sounds amazing.
What I think is the most crucial thing going forward is maybe to polish things up a little bit. The UI and some of the interfaces is pretty dated now. At the time, it was okay, but that was 2 years ago or something. There's a lot more competition out there, so we could really use some more polish, and we're also working on that.
What do you think gives Shadow Era its competitive advantage that it has? Do you think a lot of people seem to point to the fact that it's just supremely well balanced and everything is sort of like there's no one set of heroes or strategies that's necessarily overpowered. There are some that maybe are a little more prevalent, but there's just a really wide range. Or what would you attribute its success to?
Yeah, it is very balanced, and we spend a lot of time on the balance, and we keep detailed statistics about how each hero is doing, and it's incredibly balanced. We spend a lot of time on that, and it's worked out pretty good so far. I think most higher-end players appreciate that, is that they can play the game, and they're always, constantly encountering new decks that they've never seen before. And even in tournaments, we have a wide variety of heroes played in different decks, so it's really good to see that. On the other end is the players new to the game is also important. Like we talked about before, that it's really easy to pick up for players that even haven't played a TCG before. They're able to, understand the game rules pretty quickly and, get right in there and start playing. So we sort of covered the both ends. In the middle, we have, of course, our friendly community that we talked about. If you're a new player or you're an experienced player, the community draws you in and welcomes you, and we talk about decks and strategies and stuff like that. It's a really friendly place to be, and we actually have one of the largest communities of any TCG out there, so we're really proud about that.
Do you have a favorite card from any of them that's not a hero? So what is it?
Favorite card? I'd have to say Bazaar.
Bizarre?
Bizarre.
How bizarre.
Oh, God.
Because we had heard Zaladar was your favorite hero, though.
Of course, yeah, it's my favorite hero because it's really easy to play. It's, mindless direct damage.
Well, it's built-in 2-for-1 card advantage, too.
Bizarre, I like it, first of all, because it's a neutral card, so I know I can include it in any deck. I don't have to think about it. And I always play it early just because, I don't know, I guess I'm really bad at hand management because I'm always running out of cards. I always need a better draw engine, so I always just play that Bizarre really early.
I was not expecting Bizarre.
Right.
It is one of my favorite artworks, though. I do love the old man giving the peace sign.
Of all the cards, I would not have guessed Bizarre.
I don't have the guts to really run Bizarre all that often. Like, sometimes I'm just like, oh, no, like, I can't afford to help the opponent that much.
Depends on the deck I'm running.
I mean, I will get crazy, now and then. Like, I like some feed bomb and stuff like that, but for the most part.
Yeah, I should put the disclaimer that I'm not a competitive player. I play for fun, so you normally don't want to play Bizarre too often if you're trying to win.
It is definitely, it's a lot of fun, though. Some of the most fun to be had in the game, I think, are the crazy Bizarre-fueled death matches.
I have seen victory by Bizarre many times.
Can we stop saying the word bizarre while we're talking about Bizarre? Do you program this entire game yourself?
The original, up until maybe about a year ago, it was entirely designed and developed by myself. We got a design team, as many people know, to help out with the design, and they're doing all the design work now. And now we have teams of programmers to develop the features. So currently I'm working on programming new cards, and the features are done by another team. Features such as tournaments and card markets, stuff like that.
What language engine? Why did I blank on that? What language or engines did you use to build this game?
We used the Unity 3D engine. At the time, it allowed really easy cross-platform deployment. So you program once in C#, and then you press a button and it'll compile for Windows, it'll compile for the web, iPhone, and Android. So that was our key success was based off of that feature of being able to deploy on a lot of platforms very quickly.
I thought it was Unity, but I've always wanted to ask you.
Right.
Will it work for Windows 8 anytime soon?
Unity does now support Windows 8, so we are looking to test it first. There's a new shiny button that says compile for Windows 8, but we haven't tested it yet.
Have you guys considered possibly expanding Shadow Era onto other platforms?
There has been a lot of talk about getting onto maybe Xbox or PlayStation. We are investigating that, but as I said, it requires a bit of polish before the game can really compete with the other major console titles. We have investigated other publishing platforms such as Steam, and we're moving towards that direction in the near future. Yeah,
That's exciting to hear.
That is exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would love that. I know my brother and my friends would love that too. What goals do you think you need to reach for Shadowware to make a dent in the physical realm? And do you think it could surpass its, hate to say, more famous rivals like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic?
That's a pretty good question. We've been working hard on the physical side since the beginning. As many people know, the first set called the Crystals, we had a fundraiser, and we actually ended up raising a lot of money, almost $300,000, I believe. It was really good for the physical product. I mean, our first goal was to initially just make a simple deck as a collector's item to give to people. But because we raised so much money, we were able to really up the quality and make a really retail viable product, which I wasn't expecting initially. So we ended up using the manufacturer for all the top TCGs like Magic and World of Warcraft trading card game, Cardamundi. And our card stock is actually better than the current generation of TCGs out there. So the actual physical product is really top quality by a really good manufacturer. One thing that we're struggling with currently is getting the sets released in a timely manner. The balance is taking a bit long, and we're also doing both digital and physical, so it takes us a lot longer to release the set digitally and program everything, whereas the other competition, they can just do it very quickly, and they also have a lot more money, more bigger teams and stuff like that. So really we're an indie company trying to publish a physical product to go against the huge monopolies, stuff like that. But I think we're starting to make a dent, and we have a lot of new initiatives that we're starting with, and I'll be able to announce that when Dark Prophecies start shipping. We're really excited about what we'll be able to bring to the physical TCG market.
Well, you've already made a major milestone, as I've said to a bunch of people, and I'm pretty sure I've said to Caleb and Sam 1,000 times, but where I live, I happen to be surrounded by like 4 or 5 big card shops, and every time I take the game to them, they're always really impressed with the game, and the thing they tell me is whenever a card game tries to come up in the physical game, it usually falls apart before the second set can be released. So most of them told me originally when I showed them Call of the Crystals, they wouldn't invest in it unless I could show them the second set. But the fact that you've got a second set and you're already working on printing it says a lot for your game, and I'm really excited to get them and show them to them so they can start stocking it, and I can maybe get some tournaments going.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. It's hard to start getting in the stores when you only have one set. They're a bit gun-shy of supporting a new product. But I was actually surprised myself. I was like a lot of people, just play the digital game. I never played a physical game before. I was just a collector of Magic. I didn't really play. But I was actually surprised how easy it was to play the physical game. I thought it'd be difficult to keep track of everything, but actually it's really not. I played a lot of games at Gen Con this year, and it was really fun to play the physical game, to actually be sitting across from someone and, feeling the cards in your hand. It's a very different experience than what the digital game is.
I love the digital game, but I prefer the physical exactly for that, being able to talk to someone in person and just that feeling of holding and seeing your cards. I love it.
I played my first physical game at Gen Con, and I had a good time with it. We ended up doing like a 4-man meltdown, best of one, and it was a lot of fun.
I still haven't been lucky enough. I'm probably just going to have to order some decks and rope one of my Magic playing friends into giving it a shot. I already have a few that I've gotten into playing it on their phones, so it shouldn't be too hard if I...
It can be, though. Magic players tend to be a little bit of an elitist group.
From time, yeah, I have met some resistance from some folks, but honestly, everybody that's taken a look at it has loved it. But nobody around my area that I'm aware of has actually taken the plunge to get the physical card scene going.
Yeah, one of the things we really tried to do is to keep Shadowware cross-platform and even cross-media. So it's the exact same game in digital as it is in physical. And when you buy the physical booster packs, there's a redemption code for the digital currency. So it's really, you can play on any device you want when you have friends play the physical game, and it's the exact same game. So it's a really good experience all around.
It really is. I know a lot of people get annoyed with the delays and stuff, and I'm currently waiting for Dark Prophecy so I can show it to the card shops and, just hold those cards because they're beautiful cards. But it's still such a great deal for your money. I mean, the bonuses you guys give, the quality of the cards, it's amazing. And everything you guys give to the people that support you and to play your game.
And it never has that feeling of sort of being extorted by a company, where there's like limited release products and like sort of like the Chase Ultra Rares that you only get one of like every 75 packs.
Well, Caleb, I would agree with that, except I know a lot of people, myself included, that blew a good amount of shadow crystals trying to pull a playset of those legendaries.
I lucked into mine on the merchant, but you can get them in Meltdown too now, though.
The thing about the legendaries is that they're not, individually overpowered. I mean, they're a pretty unique ability, but as cards, it's definitely not pay to win. I mean, you don't need to pay a lot of money to get those in order to win. If you have legendaries, it's still pretty balanced if you use those cards or not.
That was one of the things that excited me the most when I saw them, actually, too. It was my first blush reaction. I was like, oh, man, like, Scourge Colossus seems a little ridiculous to me or something. And so I saved up, I got the gold to get some, and I played a few games, and I was like, wow, this is, like, surprisingly, like, I can send him through a portal, but it's fair all around. It's a really great card.
It is a balanced game, but I will say my most treasured card is probably the foil Scourge I pulled.
I really like my foil Magia. All my other foil heroes are...
No, I'm so glad I pre-ordered, because I have a playset of foil Fire Snakes.
I think foil Fire Snake's a tad OP.
I mean, basically, what we've been doing is just saying, nice to talk to you, Gondorian, or Nacho Cheese, or whoever. Thanks for joining us for the interview, and... That's about the extent of our sign-off.
You stay classy, world.
You stay classy, world.
Stay classy, Shadow Era. But, we can just have one of us do it. It might seem more natural. I don't know.
I can do it, since I did the sign-in.
Okay, sure.
Is that alright?
Yeah.
Yep.
Knock it out the box.
Alright, guys, that's all the time I have. for today, but I really liked chatting with you guys. I hope you learned a few things about Shadow Era history and where the future is headed. And for the listeners at home, if you have any more questions for me, be sure to post on the forums, and I'll be sure to troll you back. Thanks, guys. And that's about it for the Wulven Apprentice interview with Nocturnal Advantage. So be sure to vote who did a better job, whether it's you want Nocturnal Advantage to win or some other random team with heroes. So, yeah.
Don't vote for
Bye-bye, guys.
Thanks, Kyle. It was great talking to you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle. This is Sean, Shadow Ryu.
And Caleb, Duke Demon Knight.
And Samuel J. TJ Samuel J.
Of Team Nocturnal Advantage. Thank you for listening with us. We hope you enjoyed it, and please vote for Team Nocturnal Advantage.
Please vote Team Nocturnal
Please
Advantage. And our theme music, which we used from the introduction, which you're hearing right now, was composed and performed by the very talented Damian Walsh.
Bye.